3 years ago, Sig Sauer revolutionized the compact handgun market by introducing the P365, and I've been carrying one ever since. After that, Springfield Armory came up with the Hellcat, offering a couple more rounds in the standard size magazine, and then, obviously spurred by the huge acceptance of the market of the first two guns, another big player entered the scene, Ruger, bringing out the MAX-9. The MAX-9 is a full-featured subcompact, and let's go through it and see what it offers that the others don't. The Ruger MAX-9 ships with two magazines, one of which is a 12-rounder with a pinky extension and the other is a flush fit 10-rounder. So it really treads the same ground as the Hellcat and the 365, but it does so at a lower price point. Now MSRP is around about $500, but the street price, given the fact it's a Ruger, it's probably going to come in around about $420 or $430 at your local gun store. So a big price advantage. If you look at the 365, it has tritium illuminated night sights front and rear, but the MAX-9 opts for a big old fiber optic, which is also illuminated by tritium under low light conditions. The rear sight, however, is just a flat black U-notch, which I prefer. The other thing I like about the rear sight is that it's big enough and it is shaped so that you can get a good purchase on it to do one-handed manipulation, such as clearing it on the belt, should you need to. The MAX-9 comes optic cut from the factory, which the P365 in its original format does not. You have to go to the XL at the moment in order to get an optics cut. The footprint is the pretty common Shield RMSC or SIG Romeo Zero or the Holosun Compact as well. And you can see that once you take that plate off, the sight fits as low as it can do on the slide without impinging on the striker. All three guns are striker fired and all three guns have broadly comparable triggers. However, I've got a lot of rounds through the 365 and it's smoothed out considerably from when I first got the gun. And right now it is the best trigger of the lot in my opinion. The MAX-9 comes very close, and maybe if I put a couple of thousand rounds through this, it would smooth out the same sort of level. But right now, close second, and the Hellcat's bringing up the third place. Ruger is known for producing blue-collar guns and creating a lot of value in the products that they bring to market. And the MAX-9 follows really in those footsteps. However, that said, there are certain corners that are cut in order to bring that product to market at that price point. For example, aesthetically, it's not as pleasing as the rest. Now, obviously that's a matter of opinion too. However, it's kind of blocky. The slide from the top, there's some sculpting to it, but it's not really flowing lines like the 365. In terms of frame sculpting and texturing, the MAX-9 is more pleasing to the hand than, say, the Hellcat, which is kind of blocky, and it's got a little bit more of an aggressive texture than either of the two. It's not so aggressive, however, that it abrades your skin when you're carrying it appendix-wise. In terms of the rest of the controls on the gun, the mag release is kind of small, compact, and it's not shielded, but it is stiffly sprung. I don't think there's going to be much chance of you accidentally dumping the mag when it's in the holster. Lefties can swap the mag release over to the other side if they need to. However, that's about as far as it goes in terms of ambi controls. The slide release is on the left side only, and it's kind of hard to manipulate, which is kind of what you'd expect from this gun, because if you have a small slide release on it, you're way better off just slingshotting it to get it back into battery. When you look at the left side of the gun as well, you can see that there is no takedown lever on this. Instead, you have to press down this little catch, get that out of the way, and you can see a pin in there which acts as both your takedown pin and in order to cam the barrel out of battery. Then to just strip it, all I'm doing is cracking it a few times until the pin falls out, and then I can press the trigger, slide the top off, take this nested recoil spring out of the slide, pop out the barrel, then the gun is field stripped. Also, when you look inside, you can see that this is like the 365. It's a chassis gun with an aluminum chassis into the glass-filled nylon frame with a typical sear right there and a striker plunger release to the right of it. I'm going to put this gun back together now and put some rounds down range, and you can see what it looks like in comparison to the other two. All right, first up, the tried and true P365, which is normally found on my hip. I'm really used to shooting this gun, so it's a great baseline for me to compare everything else to. So onwards and upwards, here we go. And now the Hellcat. And finally, the new kid on the block, the Ruger MAX-9. In terms of overall performance then and feel, the MAX-9 is broadly comparable to the others in the pack. They're all great, accurate, reliable guns at the distances you're normally going to see them used, especially in a self-defense scenario. In terms of recoil, they're all pretty much about the same because they weigh between 18 and 20 ounces. With self-defense rounds, they're pretty snappy and you're going to have to hang on to them. I really can't tell any difference between the three, and although the Ruger has nominally a slightly higher bore axis, it's a wash. Honestly, it's got lost in the static. In terms of reliability, I've got about 200 rounds through this gun at the moment, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. However, Rugers have proved to be pretty reliable in the last few years. So with that amount of rounds in it, without any stoppages, I'd be quite happy with putting this in a holster and carrying it for self-defense purposes. In terms of bang for the buck, then I think the Ruger offers an awful lot, especially when you consider that it comes optics cut from the factory, ready for a red dot. And if you don't go down the red dot route, then the stock sights are pretty damn exceptional for a gun of this size. You're certainly not going to want to replace them as you would, say, on a standard Glock. Long term then, I look forward to putting a few more rounds through this gun, and honestly, at the moment, I wouldn't feel undergunned and I wouldn't feel naked if I had this in a holster. Small defensive carry guns like this are a uniquely personal choice, and rather than take my word for it, I would encourage you to compare all three side by side and come up with your own conclusions, because my hands are completely different from yours. My sight picture is different from yours, and my trigger press, how I manipulate the trigger, is probably going to be different as well. So take a look at them. If you can find a local gun store who has all three in stock, then compare them side by side. Now, of the three guns we just saw, you can't go wrong with any of them. All a pretty solid self-defense choice. However, if you do go with the Ruger, you're going to save some money. And what do we do with saved money? We go and buy ammunition.